Hey there everyone, Noir here and welcome to another Petscop Fan Theories episode. Now before we begin, if you are new to this series, I would highly suggest pausing this video and watching the other two previous episodes first, because there were a few things that I mentioned would be coming up in future installments. Some of those will be in this episode. I'll give you a couple of seconds here to pause it so that you're all set to carry on after you've caught up. Okay. So, as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, Petscop 3 both introduces and focuses heavily on the child library. Without any further rambling, let's begin. Now there have been many speculations when it comes to this building, all usually ending up at the same conclusion, which is that the child library is an adoption centre. Now I'm not going to say any different because that is definitely a factor. But the thing that I've noticed more and more during my analyses is that if you take things at face value all the time, then you're not going to get the whole picture. Yes, it is an adoption centre, but just like the Quitter's Room, I feel that it holds more impact than what is shown to us directly. Paul starts the episode by heading inside and inputting a random selection on the canvas, which is expected, takes him to a random room. The room contains a bed with a child sat on it, a table with a lamp, a magic 8-ball and a toy car. Now here's where I'm going to say something that you probably didn't expect when I said that this room is randomized. The room is random. The table's contents are not. Allow me to explain. The car is something I talked about in episode 2, as well as how significant the car is to the story in many ways, alongside the road in which it travels upon. But the magic 8-ball is interesting because it outlines exactly what I said at the start of this video. You look at the room at first glance and assume that because the room is randomized that it also has random objects, but the car and the magic 8-ball have other references within the game. The purpose of a magic 8-ball is that you ask a question, give it a shake, and turn it around to see what answer you get. What else do we see in Petscop that Paul repeatedly asks questions to? Tool. These two items on the table are also connected, which I will explain in another episode. Moving on, Paul goes through other various rooms that are indeed random and bear no significance to the plotline. I think this is entirely intentional. How do you make somebody assume a lie is truth? You give them evidence to back up the lie, which makes it harder to tell the difference. The creators of Petscop are very good at diverting attention in subtle ways, usually just enough to make people believe it so that they can set everything up for a reveal further down the line, when they feel they want you to know it. Paul then begins to input both Mike and Care's faces onto the canvas so he can further the storyline, but we'll start with Mike. As expected, a message appears when Mike's room is being generated which says, "Mike is not inside right now, he is dead. You may visit his room." Once inside, the bed is empty and the table has a tool and tweezers laid upon it. This will be elaborated on in another episode because it would be out of place here. Next is Care's room, which informs us again upon loading the room that she is missing. Another tool is on the table, but there's also a note on the wall, and this is where things get interesting, especially alongside the information that we received from Petscop 11. The note reads as follows: "Your wife says Care isn't growing eyebrows. You say that's a puzzle. You're secretly very excited to hear this news. You're in the bathtub thinking about her. I have a guess at which child you'll pick next. When you find her room, the passage to my right will lead to her. She'll appear from the darkness, limping, and I'll shoot her in the head." Tiara says young people can be psychologically damaged beyond rebirthing. A young person walks into your school building, they walk in with you, you're holding their hands. They come out crying into their hands because nobody will love them, not ever again. Nobody loves me. They wander the new maker plane. Whew, now then. There's a lot of information and deduction coming, so bear with me. Before I tackle the note itself and its contents, allow me to revert your attention back to Petscop 11, specifically the note for Care, Raina's writings, and the ending in the school. The note for Care is from the wife that is referenced in the note in Petscop 3. Raina tells us that the game was made for Marvin, which I mistakenly thought was Raina's brother, shame on me, but looking through it all now, it makes sense that Marvin is the husband. Not just a husband, but Raina, Care, and Mike's father, whether it's biological or not is immaterial. He's also a music teacher, which I've come to the conclusion of for many reasons. The Petscop 11 ending depicts him in a classroom inside the school, asking the avatar or student to play a song. He's waiting outside of the school itself in the demo seen earlier on in the episode, and I think it's pretty safe to say that he is the one driving the vehicle. Now then, the note in this episode. It specifically mentions that Marvin was considering a new victim, which is due to him finding out that Care isn't growing eyebrows. The tweezers seen in Mike's room are probably the cause of this. She's pulling them out because of either stress, depression, anxiety, or all of the above. We're already aware that Care NLM stands for Nobody Loves Me, as numerous other theorists have figured out in the past. But the reason why Care became Marvin's next choice was because that's his type of victim. A child that is psychologically damaged in some way, whether that's due to outside means or by his own hand. In my opinion, Care is not by his own means, but Mike was. I'll explain that in another episode because otherwise I'd just be overloading you with information without visual context. And with that, this episode's analysis ends. Petscop 4 is only about 2 or so minutes long, but it is by no means less important to this story. In fact, I'm going to be able to use it as a way to define the purpose of the windmill and why I think that it's where this whole story began. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments section, and even if you didn't, comment away regardless and tell me your thoughts on Petscop's story, your theories, and any ways that you feel that I could improve this series. Until next time, people, keep on surviving.